What is a strange but harmless rule your family has? The last slice of birthday cake belongs to the person whose birthday it was made to celebrate. Not strange in and of itself. Strange in that my family had to actively spell it out. Does the last slice get thinner and thinner as it sits in the fridge? Thinner and thinner as the hair on the scalp of the birthday kid. You may not use any tools to open a gift. With one exception. A tool may be used if it was also presented as a gift during the same gift-giving event. Example, going to get a pocket knife is prohibited. Using a pocket knife you normally carry is prohibited. If you were given a pocket knife as a present, it may be used to open other gifts at that time. There are no rules limiting how presents may be wrapped. That's odd law. Keeps them from getting out of 50 layers of wrapping paper with 2 surprise duct tape layers and 3 of just normal Scotch tape for an extra bonus, only to find a box filled with glitter that the present is hidden in. My best friend both enjoys and fears my Christmas presents. When there are multiple dessert options after a large family meal, the lime jelly must be included in the options offered to everyone. But nobody may accept the lime jelly. Only my stepdad may have the lime jelly. The strange thing is that this was never a conscious decision we made. And it was never really noticed until I was 17. It was the first time my now partner was invited to a big family meal. After the meal, my grandma told us the dessert options as usual. Then looked to my partner first. As he was a guest, he politely asked for lime jelly. But the awkward silence that followed, he might as well have asked if he could eat the cat. Then there was this weird awkward conversation where we had to explain the lime jelly rule, which we'd never consciously thought about before. It ended with my stepdad, for the first time in the 4 years he'd lived with us, deciding to have a different dessert so my partner could have the lime jelly. Americans, I think you call it jello. The smooth wobbly stuff, not the stuff you put in sandwiches. Edit. 2 most common questions. 1. Why only make one portion of jelly? Because only one person ever ate it. 2. Why offer it then? This thread is specifically for strange rules after all. No, it doesn't make sense. I think just a combination of habit. There used to be enough for everyone. And manners. Make sure the guest gets first choice. Can you explain why the one single serving of lime jelly is a thing? Seems like an odd way to do desserts for a big meal. There are just add water packets. And then you only make as much as you need. There was enough for everyone with everything else. But we only ever bothered making a one-person portion of jelly because until that moment, my stepdad was the only person who ever had it, so it would have been wasteful to make more. It was just as easy to only make enough for Hi Monsieur. Don't bother Dad while he's eating. I was a stay-at-home dad and did most of the cooking. After dishing up and serving everyone, I'd plate my food just in time for everyone to come back for seconds, which I would dish up for the monsieur after a couple years of eating lukewarm food. And the kids were big enough to dish up their seconds. I made the rule so I could actually have a hot meal. I still enforce this rule. Ah yes, now you understand why Mama Bear's porridge was cold. Most of the shows we watch are recorded live, and then watched later in the week. Mother cannot control the remote, as she will skip the commercials and go 5 minutes further, then spend just as long getting back to the correct op as it would have been to watch the commercials in the first place. Brother? Maybe. Are you Canadian? Yes. No one tells Mom that my sister and I didn't buy our graduation photos and just framed the sample photo with a huge watermark. Been 4 years and she hasn't noticed. Did you pocket the money? If you find the gnome, you hide the gnome. I have an angsty picture of my teenage brother that serves this purpose. I'm an adult and he visits my house sometimes, and I like to hide his senior pic for him to find. Most recently he was the angel at the top of our Christmas tree. We have this rule, but it's not a gnome. It's a very lifelike giant rubber tarantula. youngest person that knows how to read hands out the Christmas presents. It's all fun and games till no one has kids and I'm 38 and still handing out the freaking presents. When a guest leaves, you need to walk out to their car with them no matter what the weather. We were taught it's a sign of care and respect for the guests. We do that to make sure they leave. If you touch whatever is cooking, you become the cook. For example, if you come stir a pot or lift a lid, you own it. Exceptions are made for preventing something from overflowing or catching fire. Though if the latter happens, it may be best for someone else to take over. TLDR, don't touch my stuff when I'm cooking, or I'll stop cooking. That's a really good rule. Might try that sometime. Gotten too pissed over this before. There is a framed photo of the girl which came with the frame among our other family photos on the cabinet. My grandpa received the frame and he died before he'd exchanged the photo, so we're just keeping it like that. We do the same thing. It's a sample family, a mom, dad, and 2 teenage sons. There's a whole fake narrative that goes with them too, and any guests who ask are tricked into thinking they're family. The most recent and darkest development is that Barry, the older son, has had a cross drawn over his face. He succumbed to the virus last month. Rip Baza. We're all incredibly sarcastic and kinda rude to each other. It's how we show love, but to avoid any actual hurt feelings if anyone ever says the exact phrase. Stop teasing, it's over, and everyone apologizes. Grew up with this rule, and trust me, kindergarten was a rough awakening when bullies don't bend over backwards at my magic phrase. Overall good way to grow up, goofing around and joking with family, but make sure no one is actually offended when you roast them nonstop over something stupid. The family safe word. I wouldn't call it a rule, more of a tradition. Every Christmas Eve, after dinner and the presents etc., my mom, sometimes against our will, turns off the power in the house and makes us all play a hide-and-go-seek for at least 30 minutes. Some years we are all into it. Some years we aren't, but I never regret playing afterwards. It's great memories for the smaller folks and it's lots of laughs for the older ones. Overall, would recommend. When we have game night, whatever game we play, everyone must sit through a reading of the entire rule book and state that they understand the rules as they have been read, and any rule which has not been read shall not be included. House rules cause so many games to be all fucked up, especially Monopoly, so we don't use house rules anymore. And by reading the rules every time, no one can say they didn't know the rules. I hate house rules. I refuse to play Monopoly if anyone has any house rules. Rule book only. We have a first day rule. You are not allowed to ask to play with or use any toys, items of your siblings on the first day. They receive them as your so birthdays and holidays that you get presents. You do not have to share with the others. And if they try, you get to yell first day. Quote. We also had a similar rule with my kids. It's only fair that they get at least one day to enjoy their new toy. If it is a guest's first time attending movie night at my parents' house, the movie is always Pride and Prejudice. 2005. How does this happen? Either an invitation is extended phrased as "would you like to come over and watch Pride and Prejudice?" or a spontaneous decision is made to watch the movie after everyone has eaten dinner. It's never spontaneous. They always plan it. If someone declines to watch Pride and Prejudice, movie night suddenly becomes board game night. There is no other movie. Why that movie? Aren't your parents tired of it? I am so confused, lol. They believe it's the best movie ever filmed, and are somehow not tired of it, although they can quote the whole thing from memory. Santa exists regardless of age. 28 now, and my siblings and I are still not allowed to tell our mom Santa doesn't exist. A rule I had is we always hid eggs for Easter. We aren't Christian. For my parents defined. I'm 15 now. We all have ice cream or nobody has ice cream, monsieur. Don't eat the whole friggin' carton solo. Oh. and using 2 icing on 1 toaster strudel apparently now carries the death penalty. Edit. Thanks for the gold. As it should. No Monopoly allowed. We tried it for a few family game nights. It never ended well. My wife donated all Monopoly versions. We replaced Monopoly with Ticket to Ride. Much better game nights. I learned more about my ex-husband in one game of Monopoly than I ever did in the entire time I knew him. Monsieur, he was an absolute savage at the game. I've never seen anything like it, and he totally ruined the game for me to the point where I can't ever see myself playing it ever again. I've never had the fun sucked out of something I used to love so much. I feel like a part of me died that day. So I can safely say that I feel this family rule deep in my soul. This sounds like normal Monopoly. If you don't like the way I'm doing it, then do it yourself. Edit. Well, actually the rule here with just my wife and I is, if you don't like the way I'm doing it, and you are such a control freak that you can't learn to live with the way I'm doing it, then do it yourself. You know how most people worship cats. We do that, but for ducks. Tony Soprano style. If you are the last person to leave the house, you need to put the radio on for the cat. We do not fight at weddings. My sister implemented this rule for her wedding, and backed it with a "never see your grandchildren, great-grandchildren" threat. It has become family standard. Weddings are now less entertaining, but there is also less calling police, fire department, ambulance, lawyers. We do not fight at weddings. When you cook a turkey, you have to give it a lemon boob job. Started a few years ago, when my mom saw it online, and thought it was the funniest thing. She passed away a couple years ago, and us kids have been doing it ever since. When eating a meal together, we have a certain sitting arrangement, but when drinking a coffee, me and my mom switch seats. Same table, different arrangement. A clock over the bar with a caption that reads, "No drinking before 5. All the numerals on the clock face are 5s. You have a bar in your house? Damn, you be flexing on all of us. A bar could be a table surrounded by empty bottles of wild turkey. Whenever anybody comes over, you put the kettle on. However, this may be the case for many British families. Brit here can confirm, monsieur. You have to try a food twice before saying you don't like it. And then they will still make it and insist you loved it the last time. Mine was 3 bites. If you didn't like it after 3 bites, you could stop eating it. But they had to be 3 good bites. My mom decided what qualified as a good bite, and it pretty much always ended up being the rest of whatever was on your plate. 3 cheerful bites. They could be small, but they could not be accompanied by making faces, gagging, or insulting the chef. All while growing up, my family had a 24-hour rule for leftovers. It goes like this. If you have something in the fridge you bought, called dibs on, or didn't eat it, you have 24 hours before it becomes unclaimed property. At that time, it is no longer protected. I still follow this rule today. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.